Morning, Botai. There's a very interesting Gemara in Masechet Pesachim, Daf Kuf Aleph Amud Bet, with regards to the halacha of changing location during a meal. Very, very relevant halachot. Happens a lot. What happens if a person transfers from one place to another during a meal? Does he need to make a new bracha as a result? So the Gemara says yes. Shinui makom, changing the location during a meal, does cause a person to have to make a new bracha. But the Gemara says this only applies mibayit lebayit velo mimakom lemakom. The Gemara says only when a person transfers from one house to another, but not from place to place. Now, obviously, it's very vague, and Rishonim disagree what exactly the parameters of this Gemara are. So as follows. Everybody agrees that house to house, if a person transfers from one house to another, going through a Reshut Rabim, going through a public domain in order to get from one house to another, in the middle of a bread meal, a person would need to make a new Birkat HaMotzi when he gets to the new house if he wants to eat bread there. The question becomes, when the Gemara says house to house, what does that mean? Some Mefarshim, some Rishonim say it's a reference to actually one house to another. Some say no, house over here refers to a room. Even from room to a room, you'd have to make another bracha. Now, because of the halacha, now we'll get to that in a second, everybody agrees though that if you're in the same room, even if the room is very big, that's considered what the Gemara says, makom lemakom, place to place, you are allowed to change from one place to another in the same room in the middle of the Seudah without having to make a new bracha, as long as you are ro'et mekomo harishon, as long as you can see your original place. Even if it's a big room, but you can see where you came from, even if right now it's being blocked. Let's say there's a closet or whatever, and you can't see exactly where you were sitting, it's still considered you can see your original place in that room. Not only do you not make a new bracha, you are even lechat techila, even to begin with, you're allowed to change from one place to another in that room. Now, what about from room to room in the same house? That is subject to a machloket rishonim. If a person did it, the halacha is, let's say one room to another in the same house, or an apartment to another in the same apartment building. If a person did that in the middle of a bread meal, b'di'avad, because of the rule of safek brachot le'akel and this machloket, a person would not make a new bracha on his food. There is nevertheless a difference between room to room in the same house and apartment to apartment in the same building. What's the difference? In the same house, if a person has kavanah at the beginning of the meal, that I will start in one room in my house and transfer to another room in my house, it is mutar to do so. However, in an apartment building, even if you think I'm going to start in my apartment and then continue later in a different apartment in the same building, it is asur lechat techila to do so. If a person did it, you don't make a new beracha. So that is with regards to that. We have to speak in the coming days about which foods, which kind of meals do these halachot apply to, which brachot, all very, very complex. So again, just to summarize for today, from one house to another, going through the Reshut Rabim, halachas you have to make a new bracha. From one room to another in the same house, if you have kavanah, mutar. Otherwise, b'di'avad, you shouldn't do it. If you did it, you don't make a bracha, a new bracha. Same thing with one apartment to another in the same apartment building. From one place to another in the same room, even if it's a big room, as long as you can see your original place, is mutar lechat techila to do in the middle of a meal. Bezat Hashem, we'll speak more in the coming days. Yom Tov.